Good morning, students. This is your chapter number 8, The Stranger. What is the meaning of a stranger? A stranger is a person whom we do not know at all. In this chapter, we are going to learn about two relatives, about a grandfather and his grandchildren who never met before, and they were strangers for each other. And let's then figure out how did the things improve between them, what was the situation alike. Now, this story has been written by Jason. Now, over here, Jason is telling about his mentioning about his grandfather. Over there, he was waiting at the airport along with his parents, and they all were waiting for their grandfather. And even Jason's eye was searching for the early images of his grandfather, but he was not able to remember how his grandfather actually looked. And he was imagining about his grandfather, but he was not able to imagine about him. They all were waiting at the airport and they were all watching the passengers file out into the receiving room. And over there, his grandfather belonged to Chinese background and his Chinese background made him impossible to miss. He was dressed in a traditional blue jacket and he was walking with the dignity of a general inspecting his troops. His penetrating black eyes scanned the hall. That means he looked at every part of the hall. And then, in a great excitement, Jason's father called Ni Hao Ni Hao. That means he was speaking in Chinese. He was asking about his health and everything. So now, over there, he also replied in Chinese. And his mother also, Jason's mother also went over there and they were both talking in Chinese language. But Jason and his parents, they were different. Jason and his brothers did not know how to speak Chinese, and grandfather didn't know how to speak in English. That is why they were not able to understand each other's languages. Now, over there, his grandfather looked at him and then at his parents, and then Jason's mother explained that they could not understand the Chinese language. Now, it was already 1 month after grandfather's arrival. And on a Friday afternoon, Jason was busy with his brothers and they were just playing with their games. He went to his grandfather. He was standing rigidly and staring out of a window, and his eyes were filled with loneliness and frustration. And he also brought some games for the children. It was a sort of a Chinese chess and beanbag, but they did not open the gifts. Why? Because they all belonged to the Chinese background, and the children, they did not understand them. It was beyond their comprehension, impossible to understand. Now over here, he Jason, after when he saw that his grandfather was frustrated, what happened? All of a sudden, he went to his father. He asked him that grandfather is very lonely, and then he also told them that what exactly is going on. And then his father told him that grandfather is not able to understand this culture. You should at least go and have a talk with your grandfather to know each other in a well mannered way. So Jason asked his father that what was his grandfather's profession. He inquired about his grandfather from his father. Now father told him that my father was a general in the Chinese army during World War II, and they had to escape China, and they were escaping from China, and they put all their valuables into their diapers. And over there at that time, Jason's father and his uncle were babies and they were escaping to Taiwan. Now, soldiers were patrolling everywhere, but carefully they had managed to escape to Taiwan. Now, over there, after listening all these things from his father, Jason's mood became somber that night, and he wondered how his parents were able to manage both the cultures. They could even speak English, they could also speak in Chinese language. So he was thinking, why am I not like my parents? Then it was the time of Christmas, and the autumn waned and Christmas came. And over there, he decided to gift something to his grandfather. Now, over there, they all sang on the Christmas Eve next to the Christmas tree. They sang Silent Night, and he tried his best to sing along with them. Now, next morning, as we all know, it was the time for opening the gifts. So, Jason gifted his grandfather a headset, but he was not able to understand what exactly it was. So his mother came and he gave him that it was a Chinese tape and showed him to how to use it. And when grandfather exactly he knew that how to use this Chinese tape, so he was very happy. And then February was the month of the Chinese New Year. So what did they decided? They decided to drive Naperville to Chinatown and Chicago, and the streets were crowded and there were neon lights flashing the Chinese characters, and grandfather seemed very friendly and he was very enjoying everything. Why? Because all these things were explaining and pointing about the Chinese culture, and grandfather was from China and he showed and explained all the children what exactly the things were. And they were watching the celebrations, and all of a sudden when Jason was looking at his grandfather, he was finding him very happy and he was enjoying himself to the fullest, and he was experiencing his own culture. And all of a sudden he also looked at his grandfather, and at the same time grandfather also looked at Jason, and they smiled each other as if they had started knowing each other. So now this was the initiative that was taken by the grandson to understand his grandfather and how lonely his grandfather was.